Are you a math teacher? Are you a science teacher? Probably not, since you're becoming a reading specialist. But when you think about those teachers, do you realize that they are also reading teachers? Every teacher of any subject is a literacy teacher. Why? Well, anytime that those social studies, math, or science teachers ask their students to open a text and read, they're asking their students to understand what they're reading. Students must have a rich and deep understanding of the words they're reading in order for them to truly comprehend the message of the text. This deep understanding is necessary in order for them to interact with the text through class discussions, presentations, and assignments. In order to comprehend and understand a text, students must understand the words that represent the ideas or concepts. Without understanding the vocabulary of text, students cannot easily use text clues, text-to-self connections, or text-to-text connections. While there are many other comprehension strategies, vocabulary is the foundation for all other understanding. According to John Dewey, vocabulary is critically important because a word is an instrument for thinking about the meanings which it expresses. Understanding what we read requires background knowledge, but if no background knowledge exists, teachers must employ strategies for teaching the meaning of unknown words. The experience of learning the words becomes the schema needed for comprehension of content area texts. Findings suggest that learning vocabulary is more complex than simply memorizing definitions of words. Rather, it involves seeing, hearing, and using words in meaningful context. In other words, students need to interact with text and interact with the words that they're learning. If there is no background experience, we as teachers must be the platform and provide the interaction for building schema for unknown words. So how can we do that? Let's start by looking back at how vocabulary was learned. Students begin school with rich vocabularies, but have not had formal instruction. Most growth occurs incidentally rather than intentionally. When students read, often independently or in groups, and when their teachers read aloud, stopping to explain important and difficult words, this is where they really learn. However, academic vocabulary is often missed, and even when extensive reading has been a part of a student's education, learning vocabulary is a lifelong process, and academic words are not often common in self-selected texts. While there are certainly many ways to teach and learn vocabulary, teachers should keep 4 facts in mind when they consider strategies to teach vocabulary. Number 1, the students they are teaching. Number 2, the nature of the words they decide to teach. Number 3, their instructional purposes in teaching each of those words and the strategies they employ to teach those words. So this is important because look at number 1. It's saying the students they are teaching is a factor that teachers should keep in mind. Why? Because every student has a different background. Every student's schema is going to be different. So you have to bring them up. It's a leveling process. So how can we do that? What are some strategies that we can do to improve vocabulary and in turn comprehension of the meaning? One strategy that I found interesting in the middle school journal was word questioning. Word questioning is where students have a template and they fill in the missing information. This is one way that they can build on the meaning that they already have for a word and even create meaning from a word that they've never heard before. Another strategy that I liked was word sorts for expository text. Word sorts are interesting because the students actually create these themselves. They can make their own note cards where they arrange the words in categories, and as they read, they can rearrange the words into even more specific categories. They can ask themselves what might be the theme while looking at the words prior to reading the text. What will this text be about? And then after the students read the selection, they rearrange the cards, like I said, and create new categories so that they can more accurately retell and discuss the selection. So Wordle is a website that you can use. You can do it yourself, or you can allow your students to use it. It's www.wordle.net. You can copy and paste content into a little word box, and it will create a little word cloud where it shows you some of the most important words, which are bigger and bolder, and some of the least important words, which are smaller. If you look closely, you can also determine the relationships between some of the words, which is interesting for students to be able to do on their own. These are some questions that students can ask themselves, or you can ask your students after they view your Wordle, or even after they create their own Wordle and share it with their group. What does the word cloud suggest this article is about? What seems to be the most important words? And how do these words go together? Another way that students can use technology to experience words and build their vocabulary is through creating their own glossary entries through PowerPoint. PowerPoint is sometimes given a bad rap, but one strategy for helping students understand new vocabulary is for them to create glossary entries. By creating their own glossary slides, they can interact with the words and gain a well-rounded understanding of them. They can include pictures, links, and videos to increase and represent their understanding. Vocabulary games are very exciting for kids, and it kind of gets them engaged in learning new vocabulary. So here I've created a link to a YouTube video that I'm going to click on and you can watch.
In this session, students engage in word study games using an interactive whiteboard. They begin by matching vocabulary related to the social studies theme of early settlers of Ontario. This is followed by a closed activity in which they insert the correct social studies term in the context of a given sentence. The students then reflect on how these games help them to be better readers and writers.
Today, a small group of students are going to be using the interactive smartboard at the Word Study Center, and they are going to be using a website called spellingcity.com, and this website we find really valuable because it allows us to enter vocabulary words that we're using daily in the classroom. For example, we have a word list on early settlers of Ontario. We have a word list on our mathematics words vocabulary for the unit we're doing in math right now. And we have a word list of some of our word wall words. Today the students are going to be using their early settlers vocabulary. They're going to be playing a matching game. This game just asks them to remember where a word is and find the match. It's just to take off on the old game of concentration. And then if they get time, they'll play a close activity game where they have to actually choose the right word to make sense in a sentence about the early settlers of Ontario. So it reviews some of the content that they've been getting in social studies, as well as being interactive and fun. Okay, so we have two teams playing today. Team 1 gets to go first. See if you can make a match, Nico.
Repair. Children. Children. Fill. children.
Yippee!
Soot. Soot.
Tell me what you like about playing this game.
Well, I like how you get matches and you get more points.
As you continue through the Nearpod, you're going to have an opportunity to use Spelling City or choose another activity that you could use in your classroom.